Well, hello there, you amazing, amazing, beautiful, wonderful people, you. It's Thursday. It's Thursday, baby. Is it Thursday? Yeah, it's Thursday. You know when you say something and you're like, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's definitely Thursday. You're looking amazing. I ain't got my glasses on. I wonder why everything was a little bit blurry. That's better, boy. Now I can see. You're looking absolutely amazing. Let's get straight into the meat and potatoes. As yesterday, a lot of you joined me while we listened to Bryan Kohberger admit guilt to the various charges thrown against him, and it was quite a spectacle. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into the paperwork side of it, just to dumb that down. We're then going to go into exactly where Bryan Kohberger is seemingly going to be living for the rest of his life, and just talk about some of the things around it. And later on in video 2 today, I'm going to be doing one addressing of the haters, the hater comments and the hater emails that I've been receiving. I know that a lot of people in the comments have been getting, and just putting it to bed once and for all. But anyway, where are we? So Bryan Kohberger yesterday enters into the courtroom. Some people considered it a win. Some people not so much, including Steve Gonsalves. He is losing his shit. But this is the paperwork. So this is the plea agreement, which we all heard yesterday. The state of Idaho buying through the Latah County Prosecutor Attorney's Office, the defendant Bryan C. Kohberger and the defendant's attorney Ann Taylor stipulate to the following plea agreement. Now, Ann Taylor seemed to be the only one who was pretty chuffed yesterday, didn't she? She seemed to be the only one who was fucking smiling. Don't know what she was smiling about. I don't know. Bill Thompson, he weren't happy, which we're going to dig into in a second. But the defendant will enter guilty pleas to the following counts: burglary, Idaho, everything. Basically, everything. He's going to enter a guilty plea, first-degree murder, premeditation, the whole 9 yards, and then you get that. So the defendant will sentence to 10 years fixed for count 1. Defendant will receive fixed consecutive life sentences for counts 2 to 5. The state may seek restitution orders regarding funeral expenses and crime victims' compensation reimbursement in an amount to be determined. You know the drill. We heard it all. We absolutely heard it. And it said, defendant understands that if were to proceed to trial, he would have a right to appeal, including but not limited to any issues decided by the court prior to the defendant's guilty plea, including any rulings on the admissibility of evidence, the judgment, including the finding of guilt, and any issues regarding the guilty plea and the sentence. Further, the defendant understands that if were to proceed to trial, he would have the right to file a motion under Idaho Criminal Rule 35 seeking a reduction of the sentence. The defendant hereby knowingly, voluntarily, and intelligently waives all rights to appeal any and all issues in this case, and waives the right to file a motion pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 35, and is signed by everyone. So basically, just signed his life away. There you go. Bish, bash, bosh. Done. We're going to have sentencing, which we can see here on the 23rd of the 7th. So just in a couple of weeks' time, 2 or 3 weeks' time, we're going to go to sentencing. And then we have a written factual basis, which is just a written document that basically goes, I hereby admit responsibility to count 1, which was the burglary. Some people get confused over burglary, thinking that that means he stole something. It doesn't. Burglary basically means that he entered a property with the intent to commit a crime. That's all that basically means, because he entered into a house and did this. So burglary gets slapped on there. And then you've got, obviously, the first-degree murder charges relating to Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Knodel, and Ethan Chapin. And he says that he entered the guilty plea to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of his own volition. And this is where he's going to likely be staying. This is his new home, which is Bryan Kohberger is likely to spend the remainder of his days inside Idaho Maximum Security Institution, pictured after he pleaded guilty to the 4 counts of murder. There you go, nice views. So if he's on that side of the building, at least he'll have mountain views. Some people pay a lot for that in hotels. But anyway, let's just dig into this for a second, because what happened yesterday? What happened? I don't understand it. I genuinely don't understand it. You've got a state, Idaho, that is a death penalty state. Death penalty state. And they are proud to be a death penalty state. As we saw, they've just reinstated the firing squad as a means of execution. So they're pro death penalty. And you've got Bryan Kohberger. So Bryan Kohberger comes across the border from Washington in Idaho, and by their own statements, he executes 4 students in their off-campus home. Brutally, horrendous, heinous, horrible. And if you are pro-death penalty, I get some of you are not, but if you're pro-death penalty, I don't think there's anybody who could argue that this crime ticks every single box. And throughout this process, we have seen a situation where the prosecution, they want to execute this guy. Ann Taylor had fought to get the death penalty removed, and she got hit by rebuttal after rebuttal after rebuttal. No, we're going for death penalty, mate. We're going for the death penalty. That's what we'd want. That's what we get. This case reeks of ticking all the boxes, as aforementioned. You know what I mean? Your boy is going down. We're going the whole 9 yards. Something happens. It gets to a point where it appears everyone just throws the towel in, just chucks the towel in. All of a sudden, what we're saying is that Idaho don't think that this warrants the death penalty. Are we saying that Bill Thompson feels that his case isn't strong enough? He feels that there's a good chance that Bryan Kohberger could walk, which then you have to question all of the people who attack people like myself and say, no, you're stupid because you saw all the evidence and you knew there was going to come more. Let me just say, it wouldn't appear from yesterday that they had any other evidence whatsoever. It seems that what we saw is what they had. Or we'd have surely heard more, which we didn't. We didn't hear more at all. The car, it was seemingly a car caught on camera that resembled Bryan Kohberger's. What else is there? There was no seemingly eyewitness, unless you want to count the DoorDash driver who seemingly suggests that she saw Bryan Kohberger, but she was not really someone who I'd put money on to be viable as a witness in court. And did she not say that she knew Bill Thompson too? So conflict of interest, perhaps. Who knows? But the point being, yesterday didn't offer us any more. There didn't seem to be any more. The linchpin still remained the sheath that was found at the scene of the crime, and this convoluted story around it in terms of how they obtained the DNA that would eventually match Bryan Kohberger's. That, again, let's not make no bones about it, reasonable doubt only has to hit in the minds of one of those jurors. So it could be argued that maybe Bill Thompson did feel that his case was weak. Maybe he did feel that there was reasonable doubt that existed, which is something that myself and a few other people in the community had said. Do you know what I mean? There is reasonable doubt here. There is reasonable doubt. And I think that Bill Thompson, the only thing that makes sense is that he considered the likelihood that a juror would have likely found reasonable doubt in there. So was this the win? Was this the best that his case could hope for? Let that sink in for a second. Because then you've got the other side of the fence, which is Ann Taylor. And when you think that Bill Thompson is standing there and he is crying, and Ann Taylor, she's smiling. Now, maybe this was the win that Ann Taylor wanted. Maybe this was just about saving Bryan Kohberger's life. Maybe they were trying to get the death penalty taken off the table so he could at least go and have an attempt at overturning the case and being found not guilty. And it got to the point where they couldn't remove the death penalty pre-trial. So it was then about, right, look, you're going to go into the courtroom and you're going to gamble your life now. Now what do we do? And is that where the plea deal? And this is just, maybe Steve Gonsalves was right in that the prosecution didn't have the bollocks to roll the dice to see whether their case would indeed stand up. Flip side of that coin is there something else going on here? Is there someone else who is pulling the strings? There's someone else who is trying to hide certain things around this case that could potentially come out during trial, and this was about making sure that that stayed quiet. Who knows? All I know is that the vast majority of what I saw from the prosecution side yesterday, it did not reek of a strong case of confidence, of we're going into here and we know that this is the person who did it. And you can't also ignore the glaringly obvious issues around this. Prosecutorial misconduct. What is prosecutorial misconduct? Is it burying things? Is it burying truths? Is it burying exculpatory evidence or potentially exculpatory evidence? Is it saying things don't exist when they do exist? Is it leaks to the media? Consistent leaks to the media when the case is supposedly being protected by a non-dissemination order? But we are here now. And Bryan Kohberger has admitted guilt. Has he admitted guilt under duress? Who knows? Has he admitted guilt just to save his family from potentially having to testify or there being ramifications? Who knows? People admit to guilt all the time when they are not. And look, I'm not saying that Bryan Kohberger is innocent. I'm not saying that Bryan Kohberger didn't do this crime. And I've never, ever turned around and said that Bryan Kohberger has never been the person who did this crime. I've purely always stated that Bryan Kohberger, in my opinion, had not been proven beyond a reasonable doubt to have been the person who did this crime. And this position that we're in now finds us in a potential for perpetual questioning of this case, because there is no real closed door on it. We just have to take Bryan Kohberger's word that he is the person who did this crime. And maybe it could be argued that those who don't want to listen to him are just simply idiots. They're fools. They're fools that don't want to let go of the case. Maybe. But tell me this, do you feel that this entire situation, this entire circus that we've witnessed over the last 2.5 years, do you believe that this outcome that we saw yesterday is how this should have gone? This was the right ending. This was the only ending. And let me know down below, was this just a case that Ann Taylor was pleased? She was happy because this was the best that she could get? Or could she have gone into the courtroom and got a not guilty? Because it would appear, like I said, as aforementioned, it would appear that even the prosecution felt that Bryan Kohberger could have entered that courtroom and got a not guilty. That seems to be the only reason that they would have agreed to this plea deal and not put any really harsh stipulations on it. It is literally like they rolled over and showed their belly waiting for a rub. But Ann Taylor seemed to be happy. Bryan Kohberger seemed to be quite upfront with, yes, guilty, 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 guilty. Are there things that are going to come up in the future? Is Bryan Kohberger doing something? Is there some plan that we haven't yet seen? But all I will finish with is, if Bill Thompson didn't think he could win and he was willing to do what he did and roll over the way he did, then why didn't Ann Taylor see that same issue? Or did they see it? Did Bryan Kohberger just decide that he didn't have the balls to put his life on the line? But then I ask this question. Bryan Kohberger now goes into this prison and he is at the mercy of the screws. He's at the mercy of the other inmates. Can anyone remember what happened to Jeffrey Dahmer? Do people genuinely think that Bryan Kohberger's life isn't on death row anyway now? Think about the crime that he committed. Think about where he's going to be housed. He is a person who is an outsider who came into Idaho and committed this atrocity. That's what they're saying. And he is going to be housed inside that state with some of the most dangerous people in this area. Well, I would hope that they are the most dangerous people, or they've missed some people. Who knows? Let me know how you feel. What happened yesterday? Genuinely, what do you feel happened? Was it that Bill Thompson didn't have faith in his case? And is it that Bryan Kohberger didn't have faith in his defence? Did he just not have the balls to put his life on the line, while simultaneously ignoring the fact that his life is pretty much going to be on the line every day of the remainder of his life? It's an odd one. I don't know what happened, but what I do know is that this isn't the outcome that gives justice to those that lost their lives. It just isn't. And you can understand why there is some anger and upset around it. Some people bailed yesterday, and some other people, something just don't sit right. Let me know what don't sit right for you, and I'll catch you all in video 2 where we address the trolls one last time.